everyone. I'm the manager of the Foster Caregiver Policy and Support Unit, and happy to be here with you this morning.
So Rebecca's team is the lead on the flexible family supports and home-based care funding for tribes as well as for counties. So she's had a busy job walking through this process. We want to walk through today all of the flexible family support so that when you come away from today's meeting, you know exactly where to get all of your information on this program and what's out there. So Rebecca and I will get us started here today. Next slide. So our agenda for today is to walk through all of the flexible family supports program, what the funding is for, what the letter of interest requires, what the STD 204 is, how that works through the exhibit MOUs, templates, and all of that. Next slide. Let's go ahead and get started. So the flexible family supports was a piece of legislation that was put in the legislation in 2022, if I have it right, through AB 179. It appropriated a total of $50 million for county child welfare, probation, and tribes to elect to use the fund to increase home-based care. So the goal of the funding was really to help caregivers and kids stay connected at the lowest level possible. For tribes, it put a set aside of 2.5 million of that to the side. So that was 5% of it. So that tribes had specific funding for this. The funding is available for expenditure until June 30th of 2025. So it was one-time funding for 2 years, essentially, and the funding has to be expended within a certain period of time. Next slide. And I think I forgot to say this, so let me say this now. If you all have questions as we go, we prefer for you to ask the questions while we're on that topic area. Either put it in the chat or feel free to unmute yourself and ask the question. Definitely interactive is definitely more of the desire so that it is as robust and answers your questions, because the questions you have, I'm sure other people have too. So don't hold back. We have enough time to be able to walk through our slides and ask questions. Okay. Next one. So through AB 179, it essentially mandates specific areas that the funding can be used for. So it mandates respite care. It mandates costs to facilitate the caregiver's participation with the child enrichment projects, things that are not covered by the rate of the foster care that the child may need, but is over. So we've got questions in the past and ongoing. Can I pay for a child's camp? The caregiver can't afford it. The camp is going to be this and for this amount. Yes, that's what the money is intended for. We have supports to enable the caregiver and relatives to be connected. So when a child is not where they need to be, this money can be used to help get the child and the family connected together. So if the child is in a home that they're there on a temporary basis, but we don't have the ability to place them yet, but we want to make sure we maintain connections with their community and with their family, that's what it's intended for. Next slide. So it really is looking at concrete supports associated with facilitating a placement with a relative, non-relative or extended family member. And in the case of the Indian child, any definition that the tribe has as extended family member, that is also included. So just to make sure we're clear, that's what this is about. For activities and direct supports that further the intention of the provision, this is what it was about. If counties and tribes want to use the funding for something other than those things that are listed here, then you all need to get permission from CDSS to use the money for that off process. We haven't gotten a whole lot of requests from tribes, but Rebecca can talk through, before we go through the next slide, the kinds of questions she has gotten. So Rebecca, if you can just kind of walk through before we go on to the next slide, some of the questions of examples of what you've gotten questions for and what the money could be used for. And I know one of them was, can we buy a washer and dryer for a caregiver? And originally that was for, it was a request asking about the TAW funding. And yesterday we made the mistake of saying yes, but it was actually no for TAW, but yes for this. So this is a perfect example of a child is in the home, the family's in the process of trying to do what they need to do, washer dryer breaks, they can't afford to replace it. This is what this funding could be used for, because it supports both that child and the caregiver and supports them in actually staying in the home. So those are the activities of things. Rebecca, what are some of the activities that you've had to say no to? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Oh, well, washer and dryer would be one of them, actually. But we're getting some, well, for FFS, we're really flexible, that it's really great funding for, like I was just explaining, we've had some requests for, can they go to cultural activities? Yes, you can go to cultural activities. Will it pay for sports? Yes, it will pay for sports. Will it pay for some art lessons? Music lessons, yes, it will pay for music lessons and art lessons. And will it help with transportation? Yes, it will help with transportation. And like Val was saying, I inadvertently mentioned it yesterday on the TAW webinar that it cannot pay for TAW, but wash and dryer can be paid for with FFS funding. So there's it's really geared to be really creative with this funding, and there hasn't been too many that we've had to. And actually for travel requests, there hasn't really been any that we've had to decline. Some of them would be for more robust. Can it pay for one-time value? I think you were involved with this one, and we had an ask for advertising. That would probably, that's a no. It can't pay for advertising, it can't pay for flyers, or can't pay for something like that. But it is really flexible, and we're always open to have discussions about any requests for the funding. And actually, we encourage that communication. And I will drop the email box, which you'll get several times throughout this presentation, on how to contact us regarding that. Any questions specifically regarding the use of the funding? I hope I covered some of it.
I think one of the questions I'm seeing in the chat is, what are the limits for paying for transportation? Say more about that, Karina, because there's not a limit. So we need to understand what it's really about. And especially if it's transportation for the child and the family to stay connected.
Right. So let's say that we do put them into a program, right? Let's say they're going to go to music lessons. So then the care provider doesn't have the transportation to take them to and from. So is it okay to take them, set up a plan with that? Or is it just limited to when necessary?
So it would really be, okay, the child needs to get back and forth. So what are the other arrangements that can be made to get the child back and forth? Yes, you can use the funding to do that, because you're really trying to enhance that child's enrichment activities. And it's absolutely for those funds.
And so if we have an employee who is going to be transporting, then that's where the wages would be covered, like we talked about in the talk, for that specific time.
So it really doesn't pay for administrative activities at all. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of that's more along that case management aspect. So this would be paying for like a public transportation.
Got it. So
that's what it would be.
That was my next question. So is it bus services, or can it be like Uber services as well?
It could be either.
Either.
whatever you find appropriate, because as we know, some kids could do the Uber with no problem, but others not so much.
Right, thank you.
You're welcome.
And Valerie, it looks like we have a few more questions in the chat. Karen asked gas vouchers to and from music lessons.
Yes.
Okay,
Definitely.
and
Yep.
wonderful. And then Alicia put, who completes the paperwork? The social worker, caregiver, tribal representative, or FFA social worker?
So say more. I'm not sure what paperwork you're talking about, Alicia.
To get the funding. So is there like a form that has to be filled out for the request, or is it just given to an entity like CPS and then
Okay.
we'll make the request to them? How do they actually get the funding, the money for it?
Well, that makes total sense. Let us get through that process because that
Okay.
is on the slides and we'll continue to walk through that then.
Thank
Any
you.
more questions on the usage of the funds? So moving on to the next slide then. So in order to get the funds, we have to have a letter of interest submitted to us. The letter of interest must be completed and to us by July 1 of this year. In addition, we must have a base MOU signed by July 1 of this year. Next slide. So here's the process. If you already have a base MOU for other programs that you're doing, you do not need to do another one. That serves as your base for everything. However, you must have the exhibit in order to get your funding and be able to spend your money. When you submit your exhibit, which is Exhibit D for this program, it really must be moved forward so that you could actually spend the funds because these are time limited funds. So when you complete that Exhibit D and get it back to our grants unit, next slide. The MOU is the base MOU. These are the specifics in that MOU that we already have, which is the purpose, the parties' responsibilities, dispute, the terms, the termination, the liability, sovereign immunity, and audit. Next slide. So under the base MOU, and again, this is only for the tribes who do not have the base MOU completed. You would get a draft MOU. It would come from the FFS funding at dssca.gov email box. When everything is completed, the final version that will require a signature will come from the grants MOU intake box. So that would get your MOU started, get it gone through the process and signed off. Next slide. The Exhibit D is the key to making sure if you already have your MOU done, or even if you don't, this is the exhibit that has to be additionally signed and walked through for the funding. It makes sure it clarifies what the process is for the funding and getting that funding to you and reimbursement and invoicing and all of that. Next slide. When you get the exhibit, it will follow the same process as the MOU. It will originally come out from the Flexible Family Supports Funding email box to you all. That will be the draft so that you see the language, can look at the language, make sure that's something that works for you, have conversations with our team about that. Once we finalize that process, you will get the final packet from the grants MOU intake, again from dss.ca.gov. That is the one that must be signed by the tribe's authorized signer. Okay, so that's very, very important. That's a piece that we have to have in order to come back. So I'm going to stop here on the exhibits and the MOUs because I'm sure there's questions about this one.
Valerie, we have a couple of questions in the chat. Rosemary
Okay.
asked, who verifies the base MOU? If I know another department received funding, can I just apply without the MOU and CDSS will verify there is one on file? Or do I have to reach out to my administration department to request a copy to submit with my application?
So you can do either. You can talk with our flexible family supports folks at the email box, and they can say, yes, we have your base MOU on file, and we just need your exhibit, and we can send that out to you. That's what I would suggest would be probably the easiest and fastest way to get things moving, because that lets them know that you're planning to opt in and going to send something back, and they will constantly kind of reach out to you to say, okay, hey, this is how much time you have left. We need to get this done. Does that help, Rosemary? Okay. Any other
Thank you,
questions?
Valerie. It looks like I think it's a question or it's just clarifying. If tribes are not Title 4E, can they still apply from Karen?
Yes, this is not about being a Title 4E agency. This is all about being a federally recognized tribe. So you do not need to be a 4E agency at all. This agreement is the agreement that we have in order for us to get the funds out. And we strongly encourage, if you have children and families that this would work for, that walk through, definitely work with us to get the funds arranged for you. Next exhibit. Next slide, and we'll turn this over to Rebecca.
Okay, the next slide is about the STD 204, which is another important form that we need from the tribes. This allows you to be paid, which is important. And as Valerie mentioned earlier, throughout this entire process, you're more than likely, you may have already experienced this. If you're going through the funding, you're getting a lot of emails from my unit, reminding you of the deadlines, asking you if you have any further questions. We're always open for one-on-ones. We will walk you through any of these forms and any of this process. We'll meet with you one-on-one. So I just want to really reiterate that you probably can be overwhelmed with the amount of communication that we'll send your way, but please know that we're just trying to make sure that all the dates are hit on time. But speaking specifically for this STD 204, this is at the very beginning of the process too. So you'll hear us asking for this, that we need this signed. The tribe completes sections 1 through 5. And on section 5, I want to just point out that if any time the payee changes, or I'm sorry, the representative changes, we need to have another additional 204. That's if someone leaves this position, if there's someone, another, I want to say someone else in charge, but that's someone else taking over that role, we're going to need a new STD 204. Another thing that I'd like to point out, that what we sometimes notice, that if there's the name of the tribe needs to be entered the same on all of the forms. Sometimes we'll find that some tribes will abbreviate or take out any sort of, if it's the such and such tribe, it needs to be the such and such tribe on all the forms, because it will delay the process if we don't catch it. We'll really try to catch it, but it will delay the process later on, and we'll get things rejected to say that it's not the right tribal name. So just want to, we'll notice that typically on these forms here. So next slide.
Real quick, Rebecca, it looks like we have a question in the chat. Thank you.
Okay.
From Karen, it says, if the tribe has already completed one STD 204 for another funding source, such as TNAP, does the tribe still need to submit one for each?
Yes, these are independent. I'm going to say yes, but I will follow up with that. But I believe that each of these are independent for the specific program. Are you talking about the
See the
fiscal
question
point of
from
contact
Tamara?
for authorized minor changing? Correct. Yes, Tamara, I'm referring to the fiscal point of contact. Or actually either one, the fiscal point of contact or the authorized signer. If any one of those changes, we would want to know. But this form, yes, Tamara's correct. This form would not be for a program change of, a point of contact changes. It would be mainly for the fiscal point of contact. Thank you, Tamara, for that clarification.
So let's read the question because I don't know that everybody's read the question. You answered it before we got there. So let's do that again. And
Okay.
Tamara's question is, are you talking about the fiscal point of contact or the authorized signer changing? Correct, Rebecca? This form wouldn't need to
Right.
be changed if the program point of contact changes.
Point of contact changes on this form. This is what we would need a new STD 204 for.
Thank you.
Again, this just goes over the second part of the STD 204. This one should have been more clarification. It's section 5 that I'm referring to. It's a payee representative must be authorized. And this is the section that needs the most attention if that representative changes. Next slide. Any more questions on the STD 204? Again, at any time you can contact us and we'll walk you through this if there's any questions or any you need any other support with it. Nope. Okay, next slide. Next, we're going to go over the allocation letters. The allocation letters are determined once formal tribal consultation has been completed. The allocation letters will be sent from the allocation unit. I'm sorry, I gotta noticing the pop-ups. And here's an example on the right-hand side. If you're already opted into this program, you would have received your allocation letter at this point. And if you have any questions, the fiscal systems address, email address is on this slide. However, we can always be the go-between. We, being my unit, will always be the go-between for if you have any questions regarding your allocation letters, we will reach out for you to the allocation unit and find out the answer. Or again, offer any support. Do we have any question on the allocation letters?
So we have a question in the chat. Can we get TA and FFS today's presentations emailed to us? I can answer that. Absolutely. We will be emailing the PowerPoints out, and then we can also email the recordings out once that's ready. That just may take a little bit more time because we have to make sure they're accessible.
Okay, next slide. Here's an example of the Flexible Family Support invoice templates. These came out in the welcome packets. We have been sharing these with the tribes that have requested them. So some of you may have already received them. We will again walk you through. If you request a one-on-one, I believe all the tribes that have opted in have received emails offering one-on-ones to walk through this template. I just want to point out on the right-hand side of the template where it says choose one, those are drop downs. So you'll be able to specifically choose the activity that for payment, and we're open to suggestions on this template for this invoice because we want to make sure that it's simple and streamlined, and we really took some time to make sure that it would make sense to you, and we had to follow, of course, our internal process for within our payment system to make sure that all of the information is on here. but the one part that I'd like to point out is on the bottom where it says service location. Each of those service location numbers represent a fiscal year, and once this is submitted, we'll complete that portion and then send you a copy of the fiscal year that it was, the money was drawn down from. So any questions on the templates?
So I will say that when we get invoices, we will start with the prior year's expenditures. So we will always start with the year back in order to draw down funding from that fiscal year so that we can then get to this fiscal year. So our goal is to make sure, because this is, allocation year after year, there's money for both years. And we always put in the money when we claim it. We claim for the year first and then the year you're currently in, if that's the way we can do that. In other words, we try to make sure that the oldest money gets spent first and the newest money is still available for expenditure. That makes sense to people.
Should we submit invoices quarterly, monthly? What is easiest for current?
For current year,
You can submit them. Oh, go ahead.
Go
Valerie.
ahead.
I would
Go
say
ahead.
you can submit at any time. You can submit. We will take them at any time.
Okay, thank you.
Whatever's easier for you, we will make that happen.
Quick question. Yesterday they said, or we discussed TAW was an allocation, so the tribes are going to get the allocation. Is this the same? Did I understand correctly or no?
Are you referring to being funded? Is that what you're referring to?
Tell me again. I'm sorry. I didn't.
Are you referring to the process of where we're at in the funding stream?
Well, right now we're supposed to be submitting invoices for 23-24, correct?
Yes. Or 22-23, 23-24.
Oh, 22-23.
23-24.
Got it.
Yes.
Because of the delay, it's retroactive. So because of the delay and the funding getting out to you.
Okay, and then so 22-23, when are those invoices due?
I'm sorry, you cut out. I'm sorry. What was the last part you said?
That's okay. When are the invoices due? Is there a deadline for the invoices for submitting the 22-23?
You can submit them now.
Okay, thank you.
As Rebecca stated, the sooner the better for 22-23. We want to make sure that we are claiming the funds that are in there. This is my pitch for, as we go into budget deficits, funding that's not being expended gets looked at. We don't want funding for this to be looked at all. So we want to make sure that you all are claiming and getting to us, even if it's trickling in right now, as much as you possibly can with the expenditures you've already made for those time periods. And Rebecca, when you were talking about the invoicing, you were talking about in the choose one section of the allowable services and supports that something may not fit neatly into what they spent the money for, and you're gonna work to add that to this list. Is that what you were saying?
Well, I was mainly referring to if there's something on this invoice that the tribes are finding that is confusing or that they want to have added for convenience, then we will look at adding that for sure.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions on this section before we move on? Okay.
Okay, I think
Rebecca?
Valerie, you're up next.
All right, next slide. So this is the section on advances. The tribe can request 25% of their allocation. They must fill out the payment request for that. You have to include the MOU number, so we have to have that finalized so that we have an MOU number. Must have the chairperson or the authorized signature, name signature on the document. And we would get that moving as soon as you get that back to us. It is not the easiest process, but we will do what we can to move it along. We have had some slow processes with our fiscal team in trying to walk this through because they're not used to getting much in the way of advances, but we knew that it would probably be something that tribes would want. So definitely put in this form and get it to us as soon as you have your exhibits signed and your MOU is already done. Make sure this is a part of that packet that you send to us. Questions? I think this is the question, Alicia, that you brought up. How does the money come to us? And this is really one of the ways that tribes can try to get the money in advance. All of CDSS funding is in the rears. It's not in actual advance. It's not, here's your money and here's how you go ahead and expend it. It's always in the arrears unless you get the advance. Questions, comments?
Good morning. Could a tribe buy, for example, a whole bunch of gas vouchers without having a specific purpose, but then only use them for allowable activities?
Absolutely.
Okay, thanks.
Absolutely. One of the ways to make sure that you attach that to an individual child is when you're giving it to the caregiver, you have a document that either they sign or that you're signing that has been given to them. From an audit standpoint, it's best to have the person who's receiving the card sign for it. I see a hand. Karen?
So can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so this may be, anyway, I'm just gonna ask a question. So I'm new to my position, so I'm just wondering, is this the first presentation on this funding, number one? And the other question is, so you said that we have until 2025, June 2025 to spend the money. So has tribes already begun their spending on this? Because I feel like I'm behind. So that's my.
So totally get it. This is not the first webinar that we've done. We've done office hours for probably 2 years now on the project and what it looks like and how we're moving forward. This is our first 101 that we just kind of wanted to do all of them. And my team actually wanted to do them because I'm no longer going to be with CDSS. I retire at the end of the month. And so they're like, okay, Valerie, can you make sure you do this with us? We have this done. So we wanted to have this on video so that everybody can see and hear the same information. Rebecca would have to answer where we're at with expenditure on tribes for this funding. We know we've had, I can tell you from the county side, we haven't had anywhere near the expenditure level that we would expect to see at this point. And it's partly because the process to get things moving. So Rebecca, where are you at with receiving tribal invoices?
That's the same. And
Okay.
I believe that you're referring to us receiving invoices from the tribe for payment. We're in the
Yes.
same process. It's a very slow internal process that goes through, that has several steps. So we are confident that we're at the end of that trail for funds to be expended, but we also haven't received any invoices, and that's probably again true to the fact that the tribes are just now receiving the invoices for these programs. So now that they've been received, we welcome them coming through, and then we will process them. We're going to process them the moment we get them, so there won't be a delay. We're going to be really committed to doing that. From the moment that the state receives the invoice, they call it 45 days for payment to be received back to the tribe. However, my unit isn't going to. We're going to process immediately, so that will be cut down dramatically. We're going to really try to push these through. So to answer your question, that was a long answer to your question, but we haven't expended any funds yet.
So any other questions on this before we move to the next slide? Okay, next slide. So as a requirement of this funding, we have a data reporting component that CDSS must submit reports to. Tribes also must submit their annual report to CDSS by July 31st. And our goal is to make sure that you have an electronic way to submit that information. And the requirements are on my right side of the screen. And it walks through all the full number of things that are part of the statute. The goal being for the legislative teams to see what the funding is being used for, how many youth and families are supported by this, and really to show the need. Because this is just a 2-year funding, it is not ongoing. We want to make sure that we get as robust information from tribes and counties as possible to be able to show what was needed by the families in order to be successful in keeping kids in home-based care. This is also a part of your Exhibit D that shows what's required. And the team will make sure that they have the template for the reporting and that link. Next slide. So, other updates and announcements. Welcome packets were sent out last Friday, if I recall correctly, Thursday or Friday. And they included the All Tribal Letter 2324, which talked about flexible family supports. It had an invoice quick guide, invoice template, the advance request template. And in that packet, we want to make sure you know who to contact for each of the programs. So Flexible Family Support Funding is the email address. When you reach out to them, they check that box every day. They will schedule time or respond to you right then. So do not hesitate to reach out to them. They're pretty timely on getting back to you and scheduling something. Next slide. In addition, we've linked all of the information as a part of this webinar into a single place. So anytime you have something that you want to know about flexible family supports, if you look on the resource list, you will see the original legislation. You'll see the WIC code for 224.1. You'll have the STD204 payment and everything else that's listed there. Additionally, we have a link for Family Finding Engagement Supports website for resources for folks. And I think there's another page of resources. Not on this one. We have another page. Next page is our contact information. So all the resource information is here on this one page, and the next page is our contact information. So that concludes our formal presentation, but this is the time for additional questions, thoughts, comments.
It looks like Alice has her hand raised. Go ahead, Alice.
Good morning. I have a question. So we would not spend money because we weren't sure when those allocation monies would be available. So we waited until our allocation letter came in. What we realized though, in working with some of our TAs and is that sometimes they needed dressers or they needed a bed or they needed a car repaired. And we were trying to scramble and try to figure out how to pay for that. So, you know, because tribal funding is not as robust as other things. So we can't borrow from one program and pay for another and then do something like that. So is it possible for us, because I know this is limited funding, is it possible to go out and buy a bunch of Visa cards and gas cards and things that we can buy? Like we had to buy a lamp for a child for a room that a caregiver had. We had to beg for a refrigerator to hold food for this person to have his diabetes medicine. There's different things that go on. Is it possible to buy Visa cards in anticipation of these kind of things that we don't have right now, but we want to spend the money?
So here's the issue with that. As I said the last time with the gas cards, you really are at audit risk on cards. So you have to have a process that clearly shows that the funding went to somebody, or else you're at risk. That I totally understand why that works well to be able to get through the process. But I would tell you, if you're going to do that, limit that as much as possible so that maybe you're only buying a couple $100 initially because you've experienced this is what it usually is, so that you're only buying what you can expend in a quarter. Does that make sense, Alice?
Yeah, so we have quarterly reporting then versus yearly reporting?
Well, your invoice process is as much as possible and as soon as possible. So if you just have invoices that you've submitted to us and then you have no true expenditures that you've received, that's going to get really messy.
Okay, so then this kind of reminds me of like TDR, where we didn't spend all the money because we didn't have the money to spend and we waited for money, and then we didn't have an advance request form to it's just been a whole variety of things. So we want to spend the money and show that it's being spent. And if we turn back in the money, does that go against us for future years? Or, well, I guess this is a limited funding, right? It's a 2-year funding.
Yeah, it doesn't go against you at all. It definitely doesn't go against you. It just shows that the process, and a lot of the times we're able to say, here's why things didn't work the way we intended. And we're able to walk that conversation through with the legislature as to what the rationale is. So it doesn't go against you, but I definitely, yes, you can use gift cards. I would strongly advise you do it on a limited basis, because it then becomes a huge audit risk.
Okay. And then the funding, like when it gets down to I think the funds have to be expended by 25, right? In 26?
Yes.
Okay. So we have a little bit of time to spend the money. All right. Thank you so much. I just wanted to, make sure that we have that. And then the monies that can't be rolled over on some of our other programs, we should get with OTA and get those monies turned back in, so the tribes that don't have enough money, that have already overspent their allotment, can use that. Is that possible?
Well, that's why you have to opt in by this year, by July, so that any funds that are left from those tribes who have not said that they are planning to spend the funds, that funding will get reallocated to the tribes that have expended. So now it's not a OTA discussion, there's a discussion with the program, and we would walk that back through again once we get all of the final information in July of 24. We would then have another meeting to discuss how do we want to reallocate the funds.
Okay.
I think we already had some conversation on this already. And I do think it was suggested that it would be an equal split. So I think we'll walk through that process.
All right, thank you, Valerie. I appreciate it. And good luck on your retirement if I don't see you before then.
Thank you, Alice.
And Valerie, I know I just saw Cheryl's hand go up, but we had a question in the chat. Laura asked if CDSS would be able to provide a model process or forms for this.
I'm not sure what that means, Laura, so say more.
Oh, and it relates maybe to Tamara's comment right after mine, where I was just thinking that a lot of tribes might be in the position where it would be really useful to buy gift cards or to buy gas cards or something, since time is ticking. And I also understand your point about being concerned about the audit, a possible audit. So I'm wondering if CDSS can put together a model policy or a form or something that would help tribes who want to do this be able to track.
Be able to track how they are expending the funds? Is that what you're talking about?
Not track how they're expending all of the funds, but for example, if they buy a stack of, you know, Visa cards, like the policy would maybe say you use this form and you write down what this Visa card number is, and then when it goes out, you have the caregiver sign this form, and you like some way of tracking how that money gets spent.
Okay. So you're asking for CDSS to kind of draft up something so that you all have an understanding of how you would have a less of an audit risk by making sure you follow these processes? Is that
Right.
what you're talking about? Okay.
I think,
Okay.
yeah, like a template would be, I think, super useful.
Okay. We will definitely take that back, and my team and I will come talk it through. We typically leave that to the entity, but we can certainly put something together that says, here's the things you should consider if you're using gift cards and what you need to include.
Yeah, that would be super helpful. Thank you.
No worries. I can tell you from practice experience at the local level, the gift cards were always a pain, or the bus cards were a pain, but we knew they were necessary because that was the way you could do business and really support your families. But the signature process was a pain. But I guarantee you, most of the families were like, yeah, let me sign for that, no problem. So it really did help the audit issues. Other questions, comments, thoughts?
Valerie, did you see Tamara's in the chat just because it's related to this conversation? I can read it out loud as well.
Okay, go ahead, read it.
It says the tribe should be able to show expenditures, cards purchased and then expended within the spending term, correct? So as long as the gift cards are used in the way you described by the end of the funding period, the tribe should be fine if they are used for eligible activities. I think your idea of having a policy for expending is a good one. Please confirm/clarify.
Yep, that's exactly right. So you can't really buy a card for 22-23 expenditure and then use it for 23-24. It really has to be a part of the same year expenditures as well. So that's what gets a little bit messy. And that's why you don't want to buy too many unless you already know, well, we've already put out this much money, we can do that. So we want to be careful, and what Tamara described is absolutely correct.
Thank you, Valerie. And we have, Cheryl's been patiently waiting with her hand up.
Okay.
Go ahead, Cheryl.
And I apologize when I went off mute. It made a sound, and it's my first time speaking without putting things in the comments. So Now, does Wilton have to sign another letter of intent to utilize this funding in the next 2 years? I'm not sure because we'd already done that back in July of 2023. So I need clarification.
So if you've already submitted your letter of request of intent, no, you do not need to do another one. What we do need, if you haven't finished that, is the Exhibit D and the MOU.
Okay. Yes, we did all of those. We finished
Oh,
all
okay.
of those ahead of time. And again, as Alice had mentioned, we just got our welcome packet. So we didn't even know what was going to be allocated for the tribes. So we're gonna try to get that spent down in the timely manner. But I don't believe that we asked for a advance. And if we didn't check the
Okay.
box for an advance, is that something we can still do?
You can still ask for the advance. You just need to fill out the form and get it back to us.
Okay.
Rebecca, do you have anything that you would say, because the allocation letter should have gone out? Was Wilton a part of that crew that the allocations letter went out to, or are we still in the process of waiting for fiscal on that?
All tribes who opted in have received allocation letters.
Okay.
The process where we're
Excellent.
at right now is at the very end of funding. And if you did not mark it on the exhibit that you wanted the advance, that's okay. We just, you can either ask us you can either ask us specifically for the advance letter, or it's in your welcome packet. And regardless, if you even did mark it on the exhibit, we're still going to need a signature on this form, unfortunately. And so we'll be reaching out independently to you, to the tribes that we'll need the signatures from. So, and I think we have 9 of those that we'll be reaching out to, if we haven't already.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate that.
Other questions? Hearing nothing. Anything else in the chat that we missed? Let me check it out.
Valerie, I just want to touch on real quickly the data reporting requirements. I know looking at that screen, it might have been a little overwhelming because it looks like there's a lot to report on, but we're going to be making that very streamlined. We're going to be making that very user-friendly. It's going to be web-based. It's going to be in a form of a survey. And there's really only 8. I mean, I don't want to minimize the information that we need, but there's 8 different data points that we're requesting. And again, we're going to try to make that very simple to fill out. You'll be able to submit it as a survey just with a click, submit, or of course you can do print it out and send it in to us directly if you'd rather do that and keep a hard copy. But regardless, you will be able to print out a hard copy for your records. So I just wanted to touch on that a little bit.
Thank you, Rebecca. So that concludes the presentation that we had on our flexible family supports. Caitlin will get out copies of this. This will also be linked on our website so that folks can go back and look at it at any point in time. Is there anything else we need to say before we wrap up, Caitlin?
I have nothing else, but it looks like Maris's hand is up. Maris, did you have a question or comment?
Yeah, can I get a call back from somebody just specifically related to what we've got going on with FFS with Kaduk?
Yep, Rebecca will give you a call back.
Yes.
Well. Or Rebecca, can I get your contact number too, just in case?
Sure. I'll, yes.
Are you going to put it in the chat?
I will.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca.
And
thank you, Maris.
I'm sorry, did I cut over someone? I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I was just saying thank you. You're all good.
Oh, okay, yes. And our mailboxes are, there are live people behind them. So just so you know that your emails are addressed daily, and there should not be a delay. And if you reach out to us via email or if you reach out to me, so just want to make sure that you feel supported. And again, we will meet with you one-on-one and walk over this entire process with you and go over any of the forms for support. So just want to make sure that that you get that the tribes get what they need by this process.
On that note, I want to thank everybody for joining us today. Feel free to reach out with the resources. Just want to make sure you all have it. Thank you. Appreciate your time. Thank you, Caitlin. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Enjoy your retirement.
Thank you.